Hi there, this is John Wilkinson again from History Made Easier. You know, there's been a new focus to some source questions in the last few years, asking what impressions a source gives, even if two sources give a similar impression. And I think it's a question for the brave. Why? Because you're not on firm ground, or at least not as firm as with other questions. By asking for your impression, the question is asking you to infer something from the source in an exam hall, and that seems scary. But my aim in this presentation is to make that ground a lot firmer for you, to give you confidence with this kind of question. And this is a paper 2 presentation, so you may well want to press the pause button at some point, and I would suggest you watch this on your laptop. I always say that for these presentations. Here's what a past examiner's report said. An impression or an inference is something one can tell from a source, even though the source does not say or show it. So you're looking for something not actually stated in the source. So let's start off very, very general, but I think very, very useful. Is someone or something seen as good or bad? Is the source positive about someone or something? Or is it negative? If the focus is a person, what impression do you form of their character? Maybe how they are as politicians or whatever. Of course, it will depend on the sources being used, but past questions have asked about the impressions a source gives of the way a government operates, a country's attitude to international relations, a treaty. It was the Treaty of Versailles, and actually I'll use it in this presentation. Or individual politicians. And the question might instruct you to use your own knowledge as well as the source, but usually it is only the source that you are instructed to use. But either way, you must use the source. This is your source paper. So hopefully what I've already said is beginning to help you. But let's have a look at a text and a question that asks you to form an impression that text leaves you of a person. And remember, it's what the source doesn't specifically say, even though you might use the source to demonstrate that. Confusing? I hope you'll see what I mean. And remember, keep it simple to begin with. Is your impression good or bad? Positive or negative? Now the source leaves me with a more positive impression of Clemenceau than I had before I read it. I know he had tried to do his best for France, but his image of a stubborn, combative politician, he was nicknamed the Tiger, unprepared to compromise, is unfair according to the source. The source says that the image that he had extreme demands was wrong, that no Frenchman was more moderate and open to negotiation and compromise. I'm also left feeling a little sad for him. His dream of becoming president was left in tatters by the conference, and he devoted the last 9 years of his life to defending himself, but to no avail. So I've actually formed 2 impressions. He was moderate and he cut a sad figure. It doesn't matter if the source is right or not, just what impression it has given me. And I've married my impressions to what the source says. So, let's look at a different kind of impressions question. This one isn't about the impression of a person, and it isn't a text. What's more, it also instructs us to add our own knowledge to the answer, but make sure the source is used more. Now you might be thinking, isn't this just another message question? It's not, but your line of thinking would be pretty close. And again, we'll start off very, very general. Is something good or bad? Is the source positive or negative? My first impression would be that the source is critical of the treaty. You have an enlarged hand with the 5 allies clearly marked on the hand's fingers and its thumb, squeezing the life out of Germany. And there are the leaders. Wilson, Clemenceau and Lloyd George are easily recognisable. I would think Italy's Vittorio Orlando would be the 4th figure. And the message on the pillbox, worth millions a box, suggests to me a reference to the reparations bill the treaty imposed on Germany. However, a very different impression could be that Germany had to pay the price for what it was guilty of, take its medicine. And so I could briefly refer to the fact that there was a guilt clause in the treaty. But I would also refer to the clear links in the source to taking your medicine, the pillbox and the spoon with a tablet on it, the peace terms. So, 2 very different impressions. But that's okay. Your aim is to score points, and if different impressions can be taken away from the same source, say so. I'll end by repeating what I said at the start. I think it's a question for the brave, because you're not on firm ground. So be brave, but practice so that you can build your confidence. There are lots of sources in your textbooks, on past exam papers, and on my presentations that you could easily turn into an impressions question. And when you do, see if you are left with more than one impression, even different impressions. Good luck in your preparations for paper 2. This is a tricky question, but you will still score well with it. And if you think you need a little help, check me out to see if I have any tutorial slots still available. You never know. But for now, my only task is to thank you once again for listening. Cheers.